Hey fellas, Onus here, and welcome back to With a Y. Sorry for the dreaded dailies, my sickness kicked up again, and I've only felt well enough to record today. But there is one I had in mind that I really wanted to cover, and it's Deltarune related for all of you Deltarotters out there, and it's a pretty big one. Some people did some work to find the potential inspiration behind Image Friend's design, and it doesn't feel very coincidental if I'm being really honest. We have this account, Crimson Alice 27. Please read this document. Fans might have found the inspiration for Image/Friend/The Tale of Hell, and what it details is the series of stories called Watchfield by Akiko Ikeda. I hope I said that right, probably not. And the main inspiration is pretty immediate. The drawings going around that got me most initially interested in were these smiling, suspiciously device friend-shaped cats coming off as shadows from these illustrated cats over here. You have this old Toby Fox meme where it's like, if X thing comes to the West, you can play it and realize how unoriginal I am. But the real meat and potatoes here is what's in the books themselves. We have two archived versions that were English translated, and they star this little cat named Dayan. Not Dan, Dayan? I'm pretty sure. Diane? And scrolling through here, there's a lot of imagery that you could pretty easily associate with the design of Image Friend. A shadowy cat crawling out from this guy's bed. Oftentimes, these cats are smiling from one edge of their face to the other. But as we get deeper, the imagery being similar to Image Friends gets more and more overt. Like, I'm almost reminded of like some of the fan face sprites that were made for Image Friend early on. Going on to the second book, Iraka. This is from Best Buy? Goddamn. Now, there's more books by that author, Akiko Ikeda, in the Watchfield series that people have brought up images from. The two we have Google Drive links are just the ones that people have successfully found archives for. And the other image that I found really striking was like another cat that's smiling very similar to Image Friend, just sitting at a tree chilling. Also this one where he's like looking over an island. This looks more like the design of a cloud than a shadow though. On its face, I can pretty immediately believe that these were some sort of design influence on how Image Friend looked. And I think there's a pretty good chance Toby Fox has read these at some point. The part that I don't want to throw my hat in too soon on is like the actual contents of the book, because there are a lot of lines in here that really coincidentally line up with a lot of like popular fan theories about what chapter 5 is going to be. And if you draw the right lines, can also seem like they have parallels to what we already know about Deltarune's lore. Cue Tony Dog, see how unoriginal I am image, but I think it's a little short-sighted to say that it's going to be like one-to-one, or that we can predict the story of Deltarune to come through what's in there, but it doesn't hurt to look at like a few excerpts and pull our own conclusions, or just laugh a little about how, damn, that's pretty familiar. So in that first book, the plot is that there is only one night a year where the shadows of the animals who live in this village will come alive. Dan, our Shadows protagonist, comes to life, and he tells Dan like, hey, come chop it up with me and the gang, bro. We're not gonna get to do this ever again. So they waddle on down to the one night a year festival. The festival's for shadows that the moon told the shadow about, mind you. And Dan's like, what the fuck do I call you, bro? And he's like, I'm just gonna give you a name, Chip. This is also the inspiration for Sonic Unleashed, if you didn't know. The Chibikuro party is the Shadows Festival. There's already 11 squirrels there, just hanging out around the grill, probably having some burgers, watching the hot dog competition. But later, remember this illustration? There's this little freakazoid hanging out. Isn't it really wonderful that we can move around freely by ourselves? The shadow next to him was actually the disguised shadow of Noel, who lived in Death Forest, the Satan of Death Forest, or what I assume a more localized translation would be the Devil of Death Forest. The tale of hell will take crawl. The Devil of Death Forest ordered him to come to Chibikuro party to kidnap the shadows. Noel had been thinking about how to kidnap shadows, which, you know, doesn't line up with the Noel we're talking about super well. So he was glad to hear Chip's words and says, you're right. Wouldn't you think it would be nice to live freely from now on and not as the shadow of someone? And then the Satan of Death Forest, as they were, is all, no bro, trust. You can totally eat this apple from the Garden of Eden. And they say the moon's lying about the shadows only being able to freely roam once a year. So the shadows all go off beyond the sand, as it's called, to see a place where every day is a festival for shadows. And Dan's like, wait, we fucking need our shadows, bro. We can't let them go. But he's also like a little worried about Chip. He links up with his buddy G-Ton, and they're like this, man. They are close. His shadow is still with him, so he's low-key chilling. Like, this is basically happening, and he could have slept through the entire thing. They go to wake up the entire village to try and get their shadows back. They hurried to Tampa Hollow. However, not a single shadow remained. Dan tells G-Ton they're going across the sand, and then he's like, oh shit, they're going to Death Forest. They're never coming back if we let them get out there. And then they'll be made the servants of the devil devil and driven to work hard until they are worn out or used up. So Dan leads the animals to get to Mount Tachiel to catch up with the shadows, who are at the top of the mountain, and luckily they're there in time. Chip, wait a minute. Don't go to the Death Forest. Chip looked back bewildered. Dan, I'm told it's a wonderful land for shadows. I'm sorry, but I want to be the way I am for a while. The children, the poor children. When Dan was going to explain everything to Chip, a cheerful melody of hurdy-gurdy music in the horn. The moon came down low and Madam Moon could be seen playing the hurdy-gurdy. The music changed to polka, and the shadows of the animals couldn't help but dance. Yeah, they're all just chopping it up, having a good time, the shadows and the people. And then they're all realizing, oh man, shadows and us normal animals, we gotta stick together. We're nothing without each other. After all, darkners are made to serve lightners, are they not? Let's just stop being apart, I think. Absolute schooling on how to solve race relations in any country. Now, this is a side thing, but it's so funny to me that this was published by Dark Horse Comics. And all of this, I think, lines up as potential inspiration for the baseline lore of Deltarune, not really as a predictor of what comes next, and it probably wasn't the only inspiration there was. Like, some people pointed to the excerpt, isn't it great how we can be ourselves and the shadows were like trying to go on to be their own people? And they're like, this is literally how Dark Worlds get made. I'm crying, bro. He straight up just mixed this obscure design with the Cheshire Cat's disembodied face and then gave him Barberry's tail. The obscure cat design in question, the Cheshire Cat grin, which you could argue like was already on this thing, so it's even less degrees of separation. And then this shit from Breath of Fire. The protagonist and their friend as children enter a cave and follow a pointed tail made of connected circles, which is later revealed to be the tail of a demon. The protagonist will meet that demon again years later when they grow up. The tail ends in a pointed end. What was that? Let's follow that! And you had people saying like, it just feels like this RAM screenshot. Freedom's just a penumbra phantasm for big shots about the world revolving. That's all a bit reductive, but still funny to think about. I like the way this fella put it. The creative part of Toby Fox is mixing all these inspirations into one really solid, fun game that doesn't feel like an infinite ice cream buffet. Something steal like an artist. Also, like I said earlier, we're just like finding potential inspirations behind the thing that made Toby want to create his own thing. Like, the connections we're drawing could be way more abstract when all is revealed and it is said and done, but it's fun nonetheless. There have been some other like tidbits added to this sense, like a puzzle based on Watchfield titled Marjorie Noel's Night, and the Noel's Night looking much like a festival is a very funny coincidence if nothing else. But the crazy screenshot I've seen so far is this one, which doesn't have similarity to just Image Friend's design as like a cat with just a gigantic Cheshire grin, but also immediately makes me think of the original Indogany design. This is easily a thing Toby could have had in the back of his brain for ages at this point, and instead of this sprite of Image Friend being our reference to Indogany, there's probably an intentional connection there, but I think it's also very likely they just all pull from the same place. This Kodak Photo CD player, which as far as I can tell comes from this 1995 game, Nekonodean, based off the same series Watchfield. It looks to be like a computer image player of like some of the Watchfield books, a way to digitally read all of them if you so desire. There's like a lot of unseen images in the original doc in this that are like very compelling to me, and without pulling any grand designs away from what we found here, it is just like a genuine neat thing to look at. Though I do want to give some flowers to Pringle over here, who was actually ahead of the rest of us by like 2 months. Who knows how long the people were working on this doc, so I can't really say who got it first, but this dude was very early. Outside of that, as you know, the fan art was coming immediately. Noel and Chris as the people whose shadows take the form of Image Friend. Kirby's Dream Land too, and it's just fucking like the face everywhere. And my favorite one was from Nameless, where it's like the Watchfield cat and that reindeer girl from Deltarune, like just coincidentally slapping these two together because you like their character designs, but pretending you've never consumed either of the media they're from. Anyways, that's all I got. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at @withany. That email's in the description if you guys want to send me any video topics. Anyways, piss off.